Good evening, folks. This is Jane Hoffman from Blog Talk Radio. You can find our archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith. We cover religion, politics, and culture. A lot of times we do emphasize the Middle East, and tonight's episode is no different. A lot of people are confused about the Maxims and what's going on the Turkish-Syrian border. Now, many of you don't know that the Al-Qaeda and extremist groups are controlling aspects of the Turkish-Syrian border. And the legitimate people who are fighting for the freedom of Syria are getting shut out. That includes local farmers in the Rojava and Anbar region. You can see a good documentary on Rojava if you Google it on the internet. They're ordinary people, some of them Christians. They're fighting all kinds of fronts, and you'll find out about it on this episode. So please tune into our radio broadcast that was published last Sunday, and you'll hear all about it. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the show. I'm going to cut to the dialogue now, okay? Tune in. Hi, I see Don and Ben on the line. I have to cover a 5-minute introduction, so please bear with me. Tonight we're going to be talking about some Las Vegas protests from the American point of view, and we're also going to be talking about the Women's March. But my first story is about Turkish airstrikes in the Kurdish region of Afrin in northern Syria, which killed 8 people, according to a statement released by Syrian Democratic Forces. The airstrikes targeted at least 100 locations. 6 civilians were killed and 13 wounded, but now it's up to 8. I want to go back briefly into a summary of what the problem is in the region, and after watching a documentary tonight, you will understand briefly. This is only an introduction of possibly next week's topic because it's so intense. So first I want to state that the area we're talking about besides Afrin is called Rojava, Rojava. It controls 60% of Syrian oil in the northeast region. It's also a farming community. Asayis, Isis is a local military Christian militia minority group that also gets backing from the Alawites, and they're the only ones, basically a group of farmers and local Christians who are defending the region. Now, before the Syrian conflict escalated in 2011, Arabs, Christians, and other minority groups lived together peacefully, cohabitated, and even married across tribes. The Turkish objective is to send all Kurds to Iraq. They're a sore in their eyes in eastern Turkey, and Turkey has even blocked some of the Kurds from taking legislative oaths in their legislature, which they rightfully earned through elections. They want, the people in the region want a democratic Syria, but they don't see how that's possible because now 3 different groups have invaded the area and Al Qaeda controls the borders. It's Jabhat Al Nasra, which is a strict branch of Salafism, which is a jihadist organization that is religious right of the Muslim world. Isis and Al Sham. Now, the reason I like the video that I watched is because it was all local people with points. They said that the Free Syrian Army is not the biggest threat or enemy. It's these 3 main invasive forces. They come in through the Al Qaeda controlled borders, and they're basically just trying to come in and control the territory, even though they really don't have a stake there except to try to set up a religious state. The other problem is there's the YPG, which is the military arm of the Kurds, and they're affiliated with the PKK, which is the Democratic Kurdish Party that's been trying to have leeway into the Kurdish region. Now, Don and Ben, I'm just going to read one more thing. This all started out way back in 2003, the Democratic Union Party, the PYD, was founded in 2003 as one of the many Kurdish opposition parties in Syria. The PYD distinguished itself as the only Kurdish party that fully supported the Kamishi uprising. Now, fast forward 10 years to 2014. ISIL had made inroads after the Americans left Iraq, and they separated the eastern part of the Rojava region from the main force of the Free Syrian Army. ISIL followed up on its success by attacking the YPG, which is the Kurdish militia, and the Free Syrian Army in the Kobani region, and fought its way to the gates of the city of Kobani. The actual siege of Kobani coincided with the escalation of American-led intervention in Syria, in which Americans kept filtering arms and supplies to the Kurds. The intervention had started with aiding the Free Syrian Army against the government, but when the FSA was getting defeated by ISIL in eastern Syria, it escalated to bombing ISIL on Syrian territory. The only reason that this is significant is because now Turkey and the United States are in direct conflict, since it's the United States that openly supports Kurdish militias fighting ISIS. And now the Turks are bombing the Kurds in what they call starting Saturday Operation Olive Branch. I thought we should touch upon this news tonight because we've spent way too much time on American news lately, and I was just updating you guys on what's going on there. With that, I'll pull in my co-hosts, Don and Ben. Good evening.
Evening. Hello, Spock. Hey. Ben.
So I'm not sure if you followed all that, but the Kurds, the Turkish government, which is Muslim run, and the Kurds have been at odds for probably going on 25 or 30 years. But if you watch this video that I watched, there's really no hope for that northeast region. There's so many people in there, foreigners, and everyday killing. There's killing on all sides in all different armies, and it's very hopeless.
Well, as I said before, this is war. These are wars that have been going on for 3,000 years, and nobody's ever a winner. So the only reason that we're in those areas is because of the oil and because of the desire to maintain a power in that presence in that region. We've got major issues that we've got to solve when it comes down to humanitarian rights, but that's just again a ruse to essentially take over power, be an imperialist country that we are, and ensure that we have those lands, and those dictators, especially.
The only thing I think you're wrong at is the Kurds aren't exactly a force to behold, and I think the main reason America is supporting the Kurds is because there's a stronghold of Christianity in the Kurds, and they're getting smothered by the ISIL and the Muslim killing forces. They're coming there through foreign intervention.
So how does that sound? That
So
they're not a force. You said they're not a force to be reckoned with, and then you say that we're helping them because they're Christian. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't really give a reason why we are.
Well, all I'm saying is that we helped the Kurds in northern Iraq during the Iraqi war, and we gave them a lot of support. I do think it is a religious motive in this case. Now, I can further investigate, but I don't think we have geopolitical advantage in that region. I'm starting to think Turkey is a hostile nation, and they're just the biggest problem as Syria.
Turkey is just, they're playing both ends to the middle. And they've been doing that for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. That's why, a lot of the leaders there were back. They knew how to play the sides against the middle, and that's why their trade flourished. That's why China opened up the Silk Road and all those things that.
Yeah, Turkey is in a very strategic part of the gateway to Europe and the Middle East. And I wanted to mention that in that region I was discussing, Rojava, the Syrian, they were called something like the Syrian Assyrians, the Christians and the Kurds and another group of Arabs all peacefully coexisted up until this breakout war in 2011. So it used to be a peaceful region.
Well, it's mercantile. It's primarily from, when you talk about North Africa, going from there to China, that's the road that, that everything has been going through Asia and Europe forever. So they know how to be at peace. They know what it takes to make money. And that's why we've got the problem with the polarization of governments over there, because we are disrupting their trade. And we're not doing it. The IMF, the World Monetary Fund.
Well, did you know that Turkey closed the borders in that northern region for political reasons? But now that Al Qaeda controls it.
No, I didn't know that. But we're talking about Al Qaeda is a disruptor, and it may be in a way a good thing, because what's happened is that those I don't even know if third world countries apply as a political correct term anymore, but the lesser countries, economic countries, are falling farther and farther behind. And so they're, not even able to keep up with what's going on with the economic systems throughout the world, and they might need a shakeup. They might need, they got rid of the Mugabes and some of the other people. But Africa is a prime target for acquisition by business, and China has already made large strides. Of course, we all know that the Dutch and the English have been there for, centuries or more.
I don't think the Dutch are in Syria.
No, I'm talking about Africa. I mean, I'm just saying that this is the same old story coming down through Africa.
I know, but it doesn't make things any easier. These are just local farmers fighting off foreign factions in their homeland, and really nothing is being accomplished.
Well, I mean, what is? Yes, there are. That's what I'm kind of saying, is that things are being accomplished. We are being able we are changing the way things are working in the world. Things are different, and they are going to be different no matter what. The internet has changed things where Al Qaeda or ISIS has the ability to wage social wars, guerrilla warfare. So this is a new world, and everybody has to, as much as how much I'm kicking and screaming into the 21st century, but it's coming, it's here, and I have no clue what these other people are going to do about it. I'm one of the organizers for the Women's March here in Reno, and so we had a huge turnout, about 10 to 12,000 yesterday, and it was the ideas were all over the place.
We can segue into that now because Ben had some commentary about women's marches, and I don't think you guys are. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I've got a ride, so I'm out driving. So I'll go ahead, Ben.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what to say about about Syria and Turkey. I don't know much about that area and who's profiting. There's definitely a lot of people are interested in the area. That's for sure. I think there's too many forces in one little area. Now, I don't know exactly why. Right. It can kick off a proxy war between real damage capable people like ourselves and Russia. And I mean, the closer one of the superpowers gets to being on the ground there, the more danger the whole area is in. But
the problem also is people. Okay, first of all, Syria is not even in control of its own government. Then we have the Free Syrian Army layered with ISIL people and just locals fighting for their own dignity and survival. So that's a lot of layers of combat. But anytime an Arab died in this documentary that I watched, they always said, like, martyrs never die. Their blood will never touch the earth. That's like their way of coping with the fact that people are really dead. And it's not getting any better. Because whether you're a Christian dying or a Buddhist, you're dead. It doesn't matter what your cause is. Your life is over.
Right. I guess I feel bad for the people who live there who don't want to fight. They just want to live. Yeah,
you could see that in the video. It was this group of farmers hiding behind their brick walls with their loose band of rifles. In fact, they found a knife, that they confiscated from ISIS, and it said made in America 9/11, we'll never forget. And they have no idea how the ISIS people got that knife. It was kind of creepy.
Huh.
So anyway, I just wanted to touch upon that topic because I think our international news, we haven't been near it for a long time. And I thought we should just maybe touch upon it tonight. So why don't you comment on the Women's March now and what you observed?
Okay. I observed two different things. I watched a little clip of the, what is it, March for Life? Is that what it was called? Yeah, I watched a little clip of that, and it seemed to be people pretty much talking to each other, and then there was a singer, and that's basically all that I watched. I didn't see any violence or anything. But I watched the other one, just a little short piece of it today, and Linda Sarsour and some other people were speaking there. And I don't remember the name of the lady that spoke after her that said something about white people need to scoot over and make room for people of color, and I can't remember what else. I think she just said other people. And everybody cheered. You know, there was a lot of things said that were either sexist or racist, and everybody cheered. And then right after her, there was a white woman that came up to speak. So I don't understand if they've already divided themselves between men and women. That's the point of the Women's March. But then they've divided themselves even
comes from
further.
the perspective that it's kind of like the lifeboat ethics. There's only room for some, and we have to make room for others. And there isn't enough room for the minority factions. The white people are hogging it.
Right, and it's based on generalizations, statistics, and the numbers that they use, the things that they're talking about. It's all a generalization, and that's basically what racism is. To overgeneralize a category in a negative way, that's pretty much what racism is. So if you generalize everyone in power, all the oppressors, as the white people, you're basically racist against what you think is white people.
Well, even though I'm a fan of NPR, every morning there's a show on about people being marginalized and not getting their fair share, and that's the dialogue that's taking place nowadays.
Right.
And I don't have details, but I could go into different aspects of it if I wanted to. By the way, Albert's on the line, so he's been on hold 4 minutes. Good evening, Albert. Do you have any commentary based on what Ben said in the Women's March?
No, I'm good.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, that's just some of the things I noticed. It's been divided into so many different groups, and what they're calling for is they want to ally and they want to make alliances with other groups of people, even men. So they want to ally with Islam in general. That really that's a male religion. I mean, it's
When was
they don't compromise. What's that?
How recent was that Women's March? Like
that was today in Vegas.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, I mean,
just the one I saw. I know there was more. That's the only one I saw footage from.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, there's so many, like, women's marching and protesting and grouping up and whatnot. I mean, I just lose count of so many. There's a lot of women marches, but I've never seen the opposite. I've never seen men go out there and march or anything like that.
There was a Million Man March. There was a Million Man March in Washington, D.C. once. And there was also a Christian march for men.
I haven't seen men gather like that recently, except for places like Iran, when you see as far as the eye can see of men protesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was a march in D.C. about 10 years ago about the Promise Keepers. It was a Christian organization about keeping promises to be like good husbands and servants. And I'll have to look up what year it was. And there was also the Million Man March.
When was that one, the Million Man March?
I'll have to look it up, but it's going to take me a couple minutes.
Yeah, I think that was probably like a decade ago or something. Probably like a dozen years ago.
The Promise Keepers were started in 1990, a long time ago. I'll look up the Million Man March.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I agree
even the Muslims, I know Debbie Almenchazer, who was on our show. She's a Muslim, an advocate in New York for the Yemeni people. Anytime she gives a speech, she talks about the rights for undocumented people, the need for diversity, and the inclusive tone of her dialogue.
Right.
So Ben, that's the theme nowadays. With, I guess you could lump them into liberal groups, but I don't know if left-leaning Muslims are liberals. They're just trying to fight for the rights they believe in from their perception.
Yeah. You know, I mean, some of those women have turned the word feminism, you know, into like just way, you know, crazy portion. Like you type in feminist on YouTube and stuff like that, and you see like crazy women screaming at other people, you know, like just, you know, shouting and freaking double downing on their views, but like really in a threatening manner. It really, you know, it's just, it now people are, you know, saying, oh yeah, Nazi feminism, you know, so it's kind of ridiculous now, but you know, I mean, I know many years ago in the beginning, feminism and, you know, women's march made sense a long time ago when women could not vote, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But now it's just, there's not, you know, I mean, at least in America, you know, the rights are pretty much, you know, good, or if not better than men, you know. And the minimum wage thing, you know, I mean, the women are getting paid less than men. I don't remember what, like 11 cents less or something like that. I don't remember. Or that it's out of proportions. I remember
right?
Well, I remember looking that up. I looked that up like a year ago, and then like they didn't do a complete survey. Like it was just it was a biased report that didn't do a complete survey, and they forgot to mention a couple things. You know, but of course there's a lot of different aspects no matter how you look at it. You know, every study shows a different result. So, you know, it might not be true of women being paid less than men.
I don't think they're really fighting the dollar right now. They're still coming off that Harvey Weinstein thing and their dignity and their alienation from Donald Trump. But anyway, the Million Man March was a gathering of African American men in D.C. on October 16th, 1995. It was called into action by Louis Farrakhan. But it wasn't just a Muslim thing. It was the National African American Summit, the Nation of Islam, and civil rights group, including the NAACP local chapters. But the national chapter did not join.
Well, you know, I think
I'm back.
Somebody's echoing.
I'm back, guys.
Don, do you know? Were you at the Million? Somebody's phone is echoing. Don, are you at the Million Man March? No, were you at the Million Man March in '95?
No, I didn't go, and I wanted to, but I thought it was just going to be 100,000 men. I said, whatever. It turned out to be larger than I thought. But no, I was just working, and that was about it. But you know, for the most part, we're marching a whole lot, and in a way, not getting anywhere because the work is always being done in the back room. The negotiations, the ways that people perceive development is where the action is. The laws they follow along with the ideas. And so we're looking at the fact that we need to probably think about, or I always do, being a lobbyist, but think about getting into laws or getting into the actual development of these laws and programs.
Right.
Right.
I
guess
wanted
I
to
think
mention. Go ahead.
some
Ben.
of these marches, when they strictly call it Women's March, it's usually alienating men. You can pretty much guarantee there's going to be some anti-male speaking going on if it's called a Women's March. The difference I saw was that the March for Life had a lot of men there, a lot of new fathers, or there was men and women. But if you look at the title, the March for Life doesn't exclude anybody. It's
Sorry for the interruption. I'll see what I can do. Just one moment while we get our audio back.
all people who think that life is a better choice than abortion. The third wave feminine movements, they intentionally exclude certain people and promote others. So it's more of a far left voting bloc, is what it looks like to me.
Well, it's a very good
I heard on Christian radio that abortion's one issue that's never really been solved in America. It's still just as divisive as it was in 1973.
Exactly. That's the one thing that is the difference in every women's set of issues. I found that that one issue probably is the most divisive issue within women's culture. And so that's the only thing that's keeping women probably from disowning or showing disdain for the present leaders, the opaque, pasty leadership that we've got throughout the country. But the women are sticking to their guns when it comes down to pro-life, and that is a phenomenon that I can't.
You mean pro-choice?
Pro-life. I mean, the pro-lifers were completely outside of our audience. We had no pro-lifers anywhere in our women's march of 10 to 12,000 that I saw. There were no signs. Everyone had a sign. There were no signs, and we didn't have any real presence of pro-life women at our march. So that's just one thing that I see. But that is a thing that you bring up. That's probably the biggest division of women, period, of all, and that would be the abortion rate and pro-choice, pro-life.
By the way, Ben, well, I want to read one statement from you. There's a website, womensmarch.com. The mission of the Women's March is to harness the political power of diverse women and their communities to create transformative social change. Women's March is a woman-led movement providing intersectional education on a diverse range of issues and creating entry points for new grassroots activists and organizers to engage in their local communities through training, outreach programs, and events. Women's March is committed to dismantling systems of oppression through nonviolent resistance and building inclusive structures guided by self-determination, dignity, and respect. Now, I just want to talk about one thing Don mentioned. Don, most pro-life people, they only flock within their own tribe. They don't cross political lines. They only march with their own kind, like like-minded Christians.
That description, it says more than it really needs to.
About the women's mission?
Yeah, about this particular mission. Because that's not women's mission. I can name a lot of women that would have nothing to do with it. It's about taking power and demanding it be taken from somebody and given to you. and they're using the word diverse, which the way they use that word defeats its own purpose, its own definition. They're interested in diversity, but they're a group of people who claim to be diverse. So the word diversity means nothing when you're talking about it as a group.
I think the thing is, Ben, is that when they see like old hacks up in the Senate, like the Jesse Helms of the world who retained power for almost 50 years, they do have a target of people who are the oppressor, and they do see their power brokering as transactional. Like they want a piece of the movement.
But they don't want to earn it. They want it given to them.
Well, there are a lot of women in the Senate who are representative of women, but they don't use the same language as these women in the Women's March. Like they go by the protocol of the Senate.
Right.
However, if you would have listened to Tina Smith, the woman who took Al Franken's spot, a lot of her dialogue had to do with the marginalized, the oppressed, and the voiceless. So it is a movement in and of itself, and it's not going to go away. And Don can talk about that because his wife is involved in a women's project to elect women up in Nevada. I went to their seminar this summer.
What about Republican women?
There were some Republicans in the group. Even though I was at a Democratic headquarters, there were 2 Republican women there.
So 0.000 something percent.
Well, there was a well-dressed black woman who used to be a marketing person for a Republican congressman or something. When she said she was a Republican, there was dead silence in the room. Anyways, I think Don dropped out again on a call.
So basically, pre-created.
The thing is, Ben, what can you really do about it? There's nothing you can't do nothing about it. You're not going to change it.
I'm bringing it up, aren't I?
Yes, you might make an impression after we re-air this episode on YouTube. But let's talk about women for a minute. How many women do you know just follow? They just want to be a mother and raise a family and maybe have a job to help support their family. They don't want to really get involved with politics. And they don't care if they get paid 50 cents an hour less than their male cohorts. What percentage of the population do you think that describes?
Well, I would say a lot of the women that I guess if they don't really care how much they get paid, I guess they're going on their looks to get them where they need to go, you know. Because most women that don't are not pretty, are not good looking, are hard.
Well, what if you're me and you're in your late 50s and there's nowhere to negotiate within your company for better pay?
Yeah.
Like the school district has set pay. You can't negotiate your salary in the school district unless you're like the top district person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the teachers' union, because once you go to the teachers' union that donated a couple $100 million to Hillary Clinton's fund when she was running for president, so then the teachers' union's got a lot of money, and they do protect teachers pretty good, especially in the field of the college. Like college, a lot of the college and the teachers' unions, I don't remember the name of the teachers' union, but they're pretty strong. They're like impossible to fire them. You can't fire a teacher as easy as you could back in the day. The union is pretty pretty
that's
strong.
kind of like county jobs too. But a lot of teacher jobs are test-driven nowadays, and we did discuss that once when Stephanie was on the show.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think those
teachers
my
unions.
sister works for the county. She said it would take an act of Congress to get her fired.
I think teachers' unions need to be abolished. I think they're unconstitutional. Since a teaching position is paid through tax money, there shouldn't be a union representing them. They're a taxpayer too.
Yeah,
So,
and one about it,
Wisconsin doesn't have a teachers union anymore
because
because it was done away with.
well, here's the thing about it, because it mainly goes on seniority. Because even if they're a lot of the students are they're failing a lot of their, they can't get fired. Like, let's just say they're bad teachers and they're not teaching the material pretty good, but they've been working there for like 10, 20 years, but they could be teaching really horrible, and like maybe more than half of the students could be failing each year, but they will not get fired. It's just, you can't fire them for that reason. You just can't, which just sucks because there's bad teachers. They're doing horrible jobs,
I don't really see that in the elementary school I work at. The teachers are pretty engaged with the students, and kids that young will have there'll be an immediate consequence if the teacher is failing.
Well, I see that a lot in college, and I'm going to college, and I have almost about 200 units in the college, so I've done a lot of classes here at the College of the Desert. So I have I took a lot of classes here. But anyways, I see a lot of that right here at the College of the Desert, where a lot of teachers just very poorly. Like, they come and they don't have the homework ready. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to upload the home, or they said they're gonna have a midterm at this day, so we're getting ready to take the test. And then when the teacher shows up, and we're like, she doesn't have this test. She says, oh, I forgot to print them out. I'll give you the test next week. So just keep on studying for it. It's like, okay, like, it's like, no big deal, whatever. And then sometimes there was a teacher, a class I was taking in an auto class, or it's like, like that, what was it, at Pink? Well, anyways, I don't remember the class. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, one of those classes. Anyways, she says doesn't have the final out. It gives us something else instead, and says, do the best you can and screw it, It's like, and so there was a lot of half-ass teachers that just, kind of like whatever, they weren't worried about, us, even I even talked to one of the teachers and I told him, what do you think about because there was a website that you can rate teachers called ratemyteacher.com. You rate your teacher, and you give a teacher's review, and so I told the teacher what he thought about that website. I was like, it doesn't even matter. You can teacher can have like hundreds of bad rates in there. It won't even affect the job or nothing. So it won't matter, So it's
a lot of those Rate My Teacher things on private websites. It's not funded by the university. It's like a private. It's like a website you can just go on and make a comment.
Yes, exactly. It is.
Ben, I do want to get into the Laura Loomer post too in a couple minutes.
Okay.
That you directed me to.
I was going to say something. One more thing about the unions is that if it's a corporation, the strongest, I guess the most damaging thing to a corporation is arguably the HR and the union, because the employees are protected by the human resources department, and also protected by the union. So maybe it was started with good intentions, but now it's become people are afraid to even be themselves because of a comment can get somebody that's been there forever fired. And at the same time, somebody who's not doing their job properly can't be fired. So I think we have a problem when we're trying to replace things that provide services that taxpayers pay for, and the union is sticking up for people who aren't doing their job correctly or not satisfactory. There shouldn't be a union standing in the way of taxpayers getting what they're paying for.
Okay, you guys are going way too far, because for the most part, the unions are the only ones that are standing in the way of any teachers, period. Anywhere, period. There is a huge teacher shortage in America. And this shortage is due to the fact that the old standards are either too strict or stringent, or we've got new standards, and this is both of them. Or we've got new standards that are even more restrictive when it comes down to teacher hires. And so this is something that the unions, in fact, the teachers' unions are in fact trying to hold on to the teachers only because they know the distinct depth of teacher shortage problem throughout the United States. So, that's one of the things that teachers' unions are doing. Again, they are stealing money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and not exactly supporting all the teachers and all their services all the time. But in terms of keeping hires, they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with, because they are being broken up.
Right, but two things need to change about that. They've dumbed down the curriculum, so
that's what Common Core did,
to make it more inclusive. So they've found a way to confuse everyone more equally.
Right.
With Common Core, the way they push Common Core, nobody can really succeed in Common Core, and that's the point, to equal the playing field. Exactly. So I think that needs to be changed, and as of recently, Betsy DeVoe just said Common Core is officially dead, and it's a proven failure. And
that's my pet. That's my pet. That's my expertise. And so essentially, Common Core was meant. It was built in its mission statement and the initial programs to establish new baseline or new IQ level, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the educators call it. That's the whole purpose for Common Core, was to make everything as homogeneous, level, and equal as they possibly can, and that's at the detriment of those students.
At the same time, pushing diversity.
Yes, they're trying to push diversity only because they're, if you want to call inclusivity diversity, then yes. But
no, I'm talking about diversity by name.
Well, diversity.
The Common Core and the teachers, Common Core and Teachers Union, they're basically trying to do the same thing. That's why I'm against the union.
Well, the thing is,
if they could drop the crap with the Common Core, trying to confuse the kids, create a curriculum where people that are actually high intelligence can actually rise, and that's okay. And reward the teachers that have as many of them as possible, and pay them more. You could pay them like you would pay a doctor to keep them.
All right, well,
teachers can earn money. I'm in favor of teachers making more if they're better.
Right, and then me too. But the thing is you're missing the whole point of that major part. The major part of Common Core is not diversity. That may be the teachers' union objective, but the major part of Common Core is to dumb down the intelligent and raise up those who have deficiencies. And that's why we're diluting the entire graduate figures with those who are disabled, special education. Those are all now included in most educational systems in their graduate numbers. So we're talking about the fact that essentially 2/3 of the students were guaranteed to fail. That's why I've mentioned before on the show. I've refused to have my children be demoted, denigrated because of a school system that demands some kind of equality. That's not right. I'm not paying my tax money for that.
Exactly. But there is special words for special people. I've heard it before from my kids. The little things that aren't supposed to be in curriculum, that's part of the teacher's opinion, come out during the class, whether it's political or diversity based or talking about a certain group of people in a certain way. These things come from these teachers who have to think a certain way to be in the union.
Exactly. All right, I've got to go. Go, keep on talking.
I wanted to mention that one time I had to exercise one of the union leaders to ward off a teacher who was against me in the LA Unified School District. And I won the hearing and I basically kept my job. She basically didn't like me and she was making up stuff about me. And saying that like I lost files. And I won and she didn't. And then soon after that, I moved to Minnesota, but Los Angeles lost their funding for adult school and they closed like 3 out of the 5 places that they were teaching people at, and then they consolidated it with the junior colleges. So I don't even know if it really exists anymore. So that was one time when I was happy to be in a union. But I want to jump to the other story we were discussing earlier, Ben. Loomer chick. I just want to mention one thing about her that you didn't mention to me on the phone. She's Jewish. She used to be in Project Veritas. And she has her own fundraising site. Yeah, and she has her own fundraising site for people donating money so she can report honest stories. But her big thing about the Las Vegas shooting is she has a connection with a SWAT officer named Levi Hancock. She knows a journalist that he used to be involved with. Her name is Jackie Heinrich, who sent him personal pictures of Paddock's dead body via text to Jackie Heinrich. And one of the pictures shows a rifle over Stephen Paddock's left foot instead of what the newspaper reported as the rifle being underneath him. So she tries to bring things up in the news, you know, kind of like we do, that isn't in the mainstream. And she's kind of a radical person.
Yeah, well, she studies some radical stuff too. She's Jewish.
Well, she's also firmly against abortion.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just think as a Project Veritas is a right-wing Christian organization, so she must kind of hold some of the same values as them, whether she's Jewish or not.
I don't know. I didn't think Project Veritas was very radical at all. I think they've exposed some stuff that was kind of radical. Like
I just didn't like how I actually invited
people.
James O'Keefe. I invited James O'Keefe to be on our show. Some of the way they go about exposing the truth, I don't like. Whether their intentions are good or not, I don't think they should trick a major newspaper like we've talked about on earlier shows.
Well, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, what about that group of people that went in and burned draft cards? Do you agree with the way they went in and kicked the door in, basically?
Well,
Or do
actually,
you agree
I've
with
been
the
working
draft
on that
cards being?
screenplay 25 years. They didn't kick the door in. They asked the cleaning ladies for the keys, and one of them didn't want to hand them over. And then the guy said, "Well, we need the keys," and she basically gave it to him. So there was no violence involved, but it probably wasn't 100% right, but they were furthering their cause.
Exactly. That's my point.
Like people doing radical things to promote their cause. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, if the cause is worth doing something out of the ordinary, then there's going to be people who follow you and praise you for the results, and there's going to be people that don't like it too.
Well, doing on radical things because, I mean, in most cases, you're out there protesting and the mainstream media will not give you any attention until you do something radical. Then they'll give you plenty of attention. That's kind of a way to get attention.
Exactly. That's if you want to read about yourself in the newspaper, you got to do something they're interested in, and that's what the media has created. They've rewarded radical. I mean, look all the way through history, the beginning of the newspapers. They've rewarded the most outrageous people with coverage.
Including Donald Trump.
That's exactly why Donald Trump won. People were so interested to hear the next thing that he would say. And they still do it. They're still on Trump. It's like a drug. But it's whoever can find the most radical thing gets rewarded.
And you just said a good thing, Ben, right there. It's like a drug. It's addictive. You see where Apple is coming out with a new warning saying that children shouldn't be allowed to be on the phone more than maybe an hour or two a day because they're becoming addicted to the phones. So, they're going to have a program against themselves. So this is something that is addictive, and we've got to be very vigilant of everyone using the mobile phones, all the electric equipment, because we are actually killing ourselves. That doesn't make sense.
Well, do you remember when they used to say the TV set started raising children in the 80s and 90s?
They did.
Now the children are curling their spine and getting carpal tunnel in their wrist because they're always crouched down. I saw a funny T-shirt that showed the evolution of man. It started from a monkey and it grew up into the Neanderthal and then to a man and then back down to somebody curled up around a phone. It looked almost like the monkey. So that's what we're pushing now.
You've been listening very well, Ben, because I've said it many times that the health issues that are associated with all of this computer use are unfathomable. They haven't been recognized, and they are going to, without a doubt, going to put a lot of our children and a lot of our people at risk in health. So that's something that I tell to all of my legislators when I'm down lobbying and try to make them understand that that there is scientific proof that these computers are hurting our kids, and that's not even including the radiation and the electromagnetic fields that are being emitted from all the electronics, not only on us but around us.
Right, and it's not just that. It's Bluetooth. It's your cell phone. It's Bluetooth. It's wireless. It's all these wireless gizmos that they have all over your house. I mean, you can get something that runs on Wi-Fi, and you can have several different little things that run on Wi-Fi, and they're all emitting the same thing, connecting to your Wi-Fi and your cell phone. And if you could see that with glasses, if you could see what's around you, you wouldn't want any of that stuff in your house next to your kids. They're going to come out with 5G, And the difference between 4G and 5G is unbelievable. I mean, the amount of radiation difference.
Ben, I have to interrupt you a minute because I want to tell you something. I think 14 men who were draft card burners and plan to spend 1 or 2 years in federal prison for trying to save the lives of Vietnamese women and children and soldiers is a far cry from James O'Keefe, who's like another media whore trying to maximize his ideology. And secondly, when you have posers going into the Washington Post to try to cultivate a story, it just contributes to the fake news factor of people not being authentic.
Okay, I guess I would answer that with you have to weigh out your risk for your gain. If you risk more than you can possibly gain, then that's stupid. But if you actually risk,
these
and
priests
the gain
were already,
is information.
they felt like they had to take a stance. Now, maybe James O'Keefe does have good intentions, but the way that he's funded isn't exactly kosher. And I wanted to hear his philosophy up front. I sent him an email and told him that I believe in liberation theology, and would he come on my show? And well, they received my message, but they haven't gotten back to me.
Huh.
So I'm willing to give anyone a
exposing the
chance.
power.
I just want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Right. But exposing the amount of power that these information giants have is an important thing. If their platform is to create a free speech network, but then they limit someone's speech and limit the people that can see them speak, that's really not going along with their platform message. And if they can limit the president's speech, that's a pretty serious power that they have. And if they're denying that they do that and lying about it, that's a pretty serious issue.
Well, who does that?
Have you seen the interview they did with Congress? The hearing?
No. Just
No.
highlights on the news with Mitch McConnell.
Maybe watch the whole thing. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if you can judge by somebody's actions and words and their face. I don't know if you can tell if they're lying or not, but some people can.
Are you talking about the government shutdown or something else?
No, I'm talking about the net neutrality issue and the amount of power that the big three already have, Google, Facebook, and Twitter, and them denying what they really do to try to stop people from speaking, to stop people from getting their message out.
Al Franken worked on that issue.
Yeah.
I don't understand the question. I don't understand the question or the
Go ahead.
statement. Have we seen Mitch McConnell's face? Mitch McConnell always is lying. So I don't understand what the face we're trying to discern here.
He's the
I'm talking
biggest
about
grip
when
I've ever seen.
I'm talking about when the bigwigs came from the internet companies like the ones I just said, and had to answer to Congress. You guys should watch it. It's pretty interesting.
Are you talking about the one that was about a year ago?
No, just recently, just last week. They had to go
Was it
testify.
on C-SPAN? Was it on C-SPAN?
It must have been on C-SPAN. I don't know exactly where, what broadcast I saw, but I got to listen to some of it.
All right, so I'll take a look at that because I haven't been in the net neutrality fight because I've been in every other fight. But essentially, I'm not sure if they're going to speed up or slow down people who are delinquent, or if they are going to pick and choose because of usage, data usage. I'm not sure what the criteria is going to be.
It ultimately goes by keywords and trends. If you're promoting a conservative message, there's higher chance of being shadow banned or having your whatever that little blue thing on Twitter is taken away.
Sounds like bullshit.
Well, it's really not, because the way they explain their algorithm for their AI is it's up to them and AI. They use an AI program that somebody with biases created, and it's not real AI. It's somebody's opinion transferred into code. So it's not like a computer is thinking for itself. It's doing exactly running the program that someone created. And at the same time, they also use real human interpretation of what can and can't be following their terms of agreement. So it's really up to their own company who gets blocked.
As I said, it sounds like bullshit. It sounds like bullshit.
All right, well, watch it.
But true AI is predictive, and it learns. But we don't have any learning done if a person is putting in the answers beforehand.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There is no true AI, because every AI is created by somebody putting in the answers. It has to have a basis of knowledge to start with. Somebody has to input everything until it can learn to input things.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody has to put the reaction it's going to react to. Even if you look at Google DeepMind, they have their artificial intelligence. You type in something and you're going to get the exact reaction every time you type that in. And it's so or even Watson. You look at Watson. There was playing at that show where they were answering questions, and Watson beat everybody at the trivia question. That Watson's engineers, they made the question. They personally input the questions on how they would answer the questions when they would answer those questions. But it's not really 100% deciding for itself.
Right. It's not true AI then. It's not thinking, it's recalling something that's been entered.
Yep, exactly. The true AI would be completely different and unrecognizable. It would be something that it would be like talking to a baby or talking to something you just cannot understand. They would be totally different, but because AI, as we think of it today and we look at it today, it really resembles human beings, and human beings respond, and because it's built by human beings. But if you really see true AI, you wouldn't understand it. You would not even think it's true AI. It might be something unreliable. And there was I remember there was Facebook had a software that was communicating with people that they also made it. This is cool. I can't remember. I think it was a Google artificial intelligence that was talking to itself, and they made it talk to another artificial intelligence. So there were two artificial intelligences talking to themselves, and then what happened is that the language started to look kind of whack, and the engineer looked at it, and then they figured out that they were creating their own language, and they had to shut down the program because they were literally creating their own language, and they couldn't understand what they were talking to each other. So they shut down the two AIs. So something to look at, you know.
Right. And it's efficiency. It created something more efficient, so it doesn't have to use our language to use so many words. They can say more with their language quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You guys lost me. You guys lost me at 5G.
Sorry. Well, just wait. 5G will come soon.
And what are they going to do? Infiltrate your child's brain?
5K is coming.
Probably pop it like popcorn.
Yeah.
Are they going to give the kid secret micro answers for each test they take? Microphone answers? I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
Hey, if you could control somebody through their brain, why not? You know, if the possibility is there, then the technology has already been done without us knowing. It's just like it's just like spying on people. You know, if the possibility is there to record everybody's email, you know, like record everybody's phone call, then it's probably being done. And you know, then you know, what do we know? We found out that it was done by, you know.
I want to tell you guys something creepy today, Albert. I put Lauren's taxes into the taxact.com site, and all they asked me is how much she paid in federal taxes, which was $1,237. And once I put that number in, the whole W-2 auto-filled with all the right numbers for what he paid for state tax, what he paid for federal tax, what he paid for Social Security, and all I did is put in one number, and it wasn't even his year-round salary. So that creeped me out. It was like they already knew how much he made.
Oh, that should make sense.
Yep.
I know, but don't you think they'd ask for the salary first before the federal tax?
Well, if it's a connected algorithm, it's basically just a big calculator. So if you input one number, that's a chain.
Well, it was down to
it's a certain
the penny,
percent of a number already.
It was down to
Right.
the
You
penny.
can figure it all out.
Well, it was creepy because last year he filed under me, and this year he had to file under himself. And then they asked me for his PIN number from last year, and I didn't have one. And then they said that the whole thing might be rejected if I don't put in the right PIN number. Well, he didn't have one last year, so it better not be rejected because of that. It was just kind of messed up, but I did manage to finish it in within a half hour, pretty much. Anyways, I think Don dropped off the radar again, and John was at the 99-cent store tonight. So we've been going. It'll be 90 minutes and 15 minutes. How far do you guys want to go tonight?
What? But you know, we do talk a lot about politics and political views and problems with society and stuff like that. And to oversum all of that, you know, can only hold so much. We forget things and we can't remember everything. You know, you look at computers. You know, you can hold it all and have a lot more memory of the day before. You know, and surpassing the memory of a human. You know. So, you know, and then you look at artificial intelligence, you know. If we really had true artificial intelligence, you know, with that much, you know, processing power and memory, you know, and able to information and put it together, I mean, an enormous amount of memory. I mean, if a human being was given like even 2 or 3 teraflops, that's a lot of stuff. Like if you were given 2 or 3 teraflops of videos and pictures and music, You're not going to remember all of that. But of course, a computer will, right? So I believe that artificial intelligence is really smart. That it could probably solve all the political problems and all of our social problems by artificial intelligence.
You'll never solve all the political and social problems. That's the point of humans. Their answer will ultimately be that humans are the problem. That's the problem I have.
It fix everything. Can even fix the way we think. Can even fix, fix our brains and make us understand one another through and be able to, let's just say, upgrade human beings into a way that we can talk to each other with our minds. If we're talking to each other with our minds, then understanding one another is going to be way different.
That's going to put a lot of people out of work. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing, whether the NSA is good or bad for us or constitutional or not, if you think about the future, say we have some disaster or a plague or something that happens and only a handful of people survive and they find the ruins thousands of years later, the NSA would be the gold mine of figuring out civilization. Now, I mean, for us now, because it's like a detailed, everyone's life is captured and recorded, and they've built a universe of history in a short amount of time. So if anything ever happened to us, the NSA files would show our civilization, like every detail.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Yeah, and they're building every couple of years they have to build another building to put all those hard drives because they have so much memory. Because they hardly don't delete stuff. They just keep on recording everybody. So this have to, but next, because I know Google and Facebook, they have their own basically memory plants. They're where they have basically they're big buildings where they have a lot of hard drives and have a lot of memory. There's a lot of people on Facebook. The NSA beats Facebook and Google. Of course they're recording everything from Facebook and Google anyway. So their processing banks, it's huge. If we can get inside access to them, which is of course, top secret, not access to them, but we can access in there. We can see feelings of hard drives stacked up one another. There's just so much memory they have to store,
Well, the way to keep that from happening is to keep it disconnected from the internet. So what they probably do is take, massive amounts and store it offline. They take massive amounts and store it and do that over and over. So the whole memory bank isn't even connected.
Yeah. What do you think?
By the way, I have a public service announcement. Has any of you guys been watching our YouTube? Barbara's been, except for the ones that I did, Barbara's been recalibrating the audio. So if there's gaps or if there's fuzziness, she's trying to fix that before she uploads the shows. So try to pay attention to the episodes on YouTube Flying Charm that have, they usually have 3 play cards in the front, like announcing our show and who's with us. And those episodes should sound better. Okay?
Gotcha.
Cool. So she's listening to every show.
Have you been listening to any, Ben? Ben, have you been listening to any of them?
No, I listened to a couple. I haven't seen any of the new ones. I've been pretty busy running around.
Well, just remember, it was you who said that the BTR kept crashing, so that's pretty much why I originally put them up there.
I will.
So
that's for sure.
You're going to have to take advantage of it at some point. But anyways, with our Saudi Prince story, and did Saudi Prince Al Walid bin Talal help facilitate Vegas shooting? That episode has already gotten 60 views on YouTube. And our Blog Talk archives have gone up 300% in listening since I started doing the YouTube thing.
See, it was a good idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it also challenged me on a technical level. So the only problem is I can't get rid of this, my featured video with John and Bob from like 4 years ago on the Sony hacking scandal. So if you go on my page, you're going to see one of our former co-hosts on there. Bob Aldrich, who's a Bible scholar. So do you guys mind if we end at the 90-minute mark tonight? I'm getting kind of tired. And I'm at work.
Nope.
I'm good.
And plus I was in bed for 18 hours. Okay, well, can we start with our conclusions then?
I don't have much of a conclusion.
Yeah, I pretty much did my conclusion.
Okay, I'll do one. So we started the show out with the Northeast Syrian Turkish conflict, and what I see happening is that we already are on the verge of World War III based on the American and Russian involvement in that region, and the different amount of military factions fighting in that region, which initially spread out from the Iraqi and Afghan war. There's still trouble spots in Afghanistan, and there was an explosion there as well as in Syria this morning or last night. So I still see problems in that region that aren't going to be solved by a new president or new leadership. And while you guys were talking tonight about the women's march and stuff, it dawned on me that even 20 election for presidency is just going to be just as divisive with as many competing people trying to claim what their mantra is for justice and American citizenship. And I don't think our country is going to be in any better shape than it is in 2018. However, I do see our economy improving, and if we can ward off Rocket Man, maybe the world will be safe for another 4 years. Well, that's kind of a cheesy ending, but that's pretty much the thoughts on my head tonight.
How's that?
And I have no artificial intelligence guiding me at this point.
Well, good.
Right. Yeah, Skynet's not loading up yet.
So with that, we'll end the show early tonight. Next Sunday night, I will be off, so I'll have more of the freedom within my own home to navigate. But thank you for joining us, and please stay tuned at YouTube/Flying Charm. And I'm going to end the show with one of John's songs, okay?
Right on. Good. See you later.
See you on the other side of the Wolf Moon. It's coming out this week. Good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to the audio. We appreciate your ongoing support. Please tune in at www.blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith for more episodes.